excited to talk to you about our new employee newsletter today. Just before we get started, a few housekeeping items. We will be recording the session today, as you may have just heard. And so we will share that recording with everyone in the next few days so that you can rewatch it if you want to, or share it with others who weren't able to make it today. If you have any questions throughout the presentation today, we will have some time for a Q&A after the demo, but please feel free during the session if anything comes to mind, any questions. There's a Q&A box or tool in your Zoom toolbar that you can open up and pop questions in at any time. We do have a few ThoughtFarmer staff on the call today as well who can perhaps already answer your question in the chat while we go through. Okay, and with that, without further ado, let's get started. Let's start by introducing myself. Hello, I am Caroline. I am Director of Customer Success at ThoughtFarmer, been here for over 16 years now. And I work with our customer facing team. So making sure all of our amazing customers know what they need to know about ThoughtFarmer, set up for success to build great intranets. For today, what we are obviously here to talk about is our new employee newsletter, a new piece of functionality that we launched a few weeks ago. And so, of course, essentially what this allows you to do is build rich, amazing looking employee newsletters straight from your ThoughtFarmer intranet. So if you're currently using something like MailChimp or Constant Contact to draft newsletters, you can make those tools obsolete and just bring it all into ThoughtFarmer, managing all of your subscriber lists, not paying for another separate newsletter platform. It also comes with great analytics, which I'll show you later, so you can see what the reach is for your newsletters. And not unimportantly, there's no IT setup required. So pretty much you can turn on your employee newsletter in ThoughtFarmer today, if you're on the latest version, and start drafting and designing it, which is exciting. All right. So in terms of use cases for employee newsletter, just to give you a little bit of inspiration on how it can be used, obviously, your traditional newsletter scenario, sending out company updates, news that goes out to the entire organizational staff member, be it new hires, exciting wins for the organization. But you can also use the newsletter functionality to send more segmented newsletters, right? So maybe you have newsletters you want to send for different departments or different office locations if you are geographically dispersed. Compliance reminders is another one that we heard from our customers that would be a great use case for this newsletter, sending people just target reminders to areas on the internet that they need to know about, whether it's policies that have been updated, security guidelines, and those types of things. And employee onboarding, right? Why not draft a newsletter, a first week newsletter for new people joining the organization with some key information that they need to know joining your organization? What are some key resources? What do they really need to know? So that's another way to use our employee newsletter. And then, of course, events or any sort of like all hands or staff invitations that you want to send out. Our newsletter is built to do that in an ideal way, pulling in events, calendar events, and all of that information from your intranet. And there's more, right? Like these are some examples that we've heard from customers and that we are doing ourselves with our newsletter, but you can use your newsletter to remind people about benefits enrollment. You can use it in the compliance scenario in tandem with our required reading feature. The sky is the limit. Okay, with that introduction, I just want to jump into the live demo right from here. So let me exit my full screen mode, and I'm going to bring up one of our demo sites here. So this is a ThoughtFarmer intranet. Let's go to our employee newsletter dashboard. So where you're going to go first is our broadcast center. That's where employee newsletters live in ThoughtFarmer. So for those of you who are ThoughtFarmer customers, you know how to get there. Open your profile menu, and then under content, you're going to click on broadcast center here, right? These are all of your in-app broadcasts that you may have sent. But you'll now notice a new a tab here saying email newsletter. And from here, you will have an overview of any newsletters you've sent in the past. And from here, you also create new ones. So I'm going to click on create email newsletter. I'm going to call this one upcoming staff events. The title that you give your newsletter, it's just for your benefit. This is not going to become the subject line. So it's just how it's going to sort of show up in your email newsletter list here. So I'm going to click on save. And then that brings me into the builder. For those of you who have used our forms feature, form flow, this is a very similar interface, right? You have all of your different newsletter blocks on the left-hand side, and you just drag and drop them into the builder to start building out your newsletter. So obviously, this is an empty one. We can start building this from scratch, or we can get started from one of our templates. So when you look at the newsletter in your intranet, you'll see that there are 3 templates built in. So if I click on this apply template button here, this is what they are. We have an employee spotlight template, one for event invites, and then our sort of traditional news editorial. I'm going to start from my event invite and click on apply. And then you'll notice it just pops in this suggested newsletter structure straight into my builder, right? And then I can now start customize it from here. So first things first, email subject. I'm just going to call this summer events roundup. It's going to be an email I want to send out to all staff to let them know, hey, for the rest of the summer, what can you expect in terms of social events across the organization, team building events, staff events, all hands, those types of things. All right, so the first thing I want to do is maybe add a banner image, right? We have one here at the very top, this sort of top envelope one looking, but I want to add a banner image that kind of reflects our organization as well. So I'm just going to grab this banner image right here and pop it into my editor. And then from there, you can see I can just click on add image. Our image selector here is what you're used to in all other areas of ThoughtFarmer. You can either select an image from any recommended galleries. You can use our Unsplash integration if you wish, or you can upload your own image, which is what I'm going to do right now. Okay, let me find my image here. And I might actually have it on my desktop. There we go. Okay, so I'm popping that in, and you can see this banner image is now at the very top. So let's go over some of the other blocks or widgets that you have available here. The first one here is a rich text one, super straightforward. This is where you can just add any text. You can use tables, you can use images, anything that you have, links to other areas of the internet, anything that you would expect in a ThoughtFarmer rich text editor. So for this one, let me just date it to ThoughtFarmer. And then one good thing to know about any text that you add in your email is that you do have the ability to change the fonts that are used in your newsletter. By default, it's going to select the main font that you have on your intranet. But if you wanted to change that, you can scroll all the way up. You'll see a font selector here, right? And then you see it's trebuchet right now. If I wanted to change all the text to, let's say, Verdana, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and click on save, you'll see this gets updated. Any of the other rich text areas or headers will be updated as well. All right, and then it's time to start adding some news, start adding some content, right? So there's different ways different widgets or different visually displays, if you will, that you can add posts. The one that you're seeing here is a block that allows you to set up multiple posts. So you can see there's two placeholders here for two side-by-side news articles that you're pulling in from the internet. Doesn't have to be two, can be four, can be six, however many you want. But this is sort of optimized for multiple posts. The one that I am going to add here is a single post. I'm just going to just drag that from the left-hand side into your builder and then click on Setup Post, right? So first thing you want to do is search the content that you want to link to. So in this case, we have an amazing wine and cheese tasting event. So I am going to look for that, and I can see it pop up here right as I start the search here. So I'm adding my wine and cheese tasting, and then you can sort of decide how do you want this to show up in your email newsletter, side by side, meaning your image, and then some text beside it, text only, or in this case, I really wanted super visual. So I'm going to use stacked, which is focusing on the image for the news post with then a little description underneath it, right? Click on done, and then you can see it pops it right in here, right? If you wanted to change the image that it's going to pull in automatically the thumbnail image from the post on the intranet. If you wanted to change that, you can easily just click on this pencil icon and again, select another image through Unsplash or by uploading it. You can also change the title here, make sure if, the title should be a little different or the description should be a little different for your newsletter, you can do that. I have a little blurb that's less sort of quirky. So I will pop that in. It's very easy. And then away we go, right? You can also easily, of course, place it in another area of the newsletter. So maybe before any other posts, I want to make sure that my wine and cheese tasting is really the main event in the newsletter. I can click here on these three dots and I can select move up to place it elsewhere, move it up or down, obviously, in the newsletter. And now it's front and center. All right. So scrolling down a little bit, I'm not going to set up these posts, but again, very similar to what I've just done with the wine and cheese tasting, it just supports multiple articles and by the way, I just like to make sure as well, I'm adding an event here. I add news posts, but they don't necessarily have to be news pages on the internet. If I wanted to link to a policy page or a page that has a number of attachments, whatever you have on your internet, you can link that up in here. It's not only news content. Okay, so the next one, and I want to go over this because I think it's a really good example of how flexible our rich text cards are. This is a rich text card, that is inviting people to go onto the internet and vote for a poll. So a poll functionality, of course, that we have in ThoughtFarmer. You can also link to a form flow form if that's something that you want to promote in your newsletter. And you can see that it takes use here of our default tables. Using tables at a rich text editor is sometimes a nice way to sort of align content in different areas. So we've done that here with sort of this image we've added on the right-hand side, and then we have our poll options or our event options on the left-hand side. So again, I'm going to make sure that I replace the placeholder text with something more inviting. There we go. And then what I've done at the same time, so before drafting this newsletter, I'm just going to switch to this window. I have created a poll on our intranet that people can use to vote for the next event, right? So I'm going to copy that link. And then in here, in this bottom row of the table, you can see we've shaded it differently so that it's going to look like a button, like a call to action in the newsletter. So I'm going to pop my link in there. I'm going to obviously remove this as it's just template content. I'm going to highlight vote now. And it's already there. Vote for the next staff event is now going to be an option here. So again, a great way to like pull people back into the internet, get them to engage, get them to vote, and share comments on what they would like to see for the next events. Next thing I just briefly want to show, you can see one here. It's just a staff event policies, which will introduce the next section. Again, I'm not going to fill this out, but it's just to make you aware that if you wanted to, link to your staff event code of conduct or any policy content on, how do you reimburse travel expenses that have to do with staff events, you can do that too. But I really want to show here is that you also have this divider and heading object, right? Which again creates nice visual cues of the different areas in your newsletter. So for example, if I wanted to divvy up my wine and cheese tasting with the other posts, I just pop the divider in here, creates a nice little horizontal line, and then a heading maybe for our wine and cheese. Maybe I'll say like August, August event spotlight, right? And then I'll add the wine tasting emoji here. There we go. So again, headings can be used again to sort of like indicate different sections in your email newsletter. The last one that we have in here, if I scroll down, is just it's a rich text editor with a generic logo image in here. What I like to do is just pop our company logo in there at the very bottom, just to sort of like, again, reinforce our brand, right? So I'm going to remove the logo that is here by default. And then in the editor, I'm going to select that image. And I'm just going to have to find our ThoughtFarmer logo here. There we go. Pop it right into the editor. Again, I can make that, of course, smaller. I can choose to outline that in the center or on one of the sides. And with that, I think I'm happy with my newsletter and what it looks like right now. So after you've done building, before you send, obviously you want to kind of have a final idea of what it's going to look like. So we do have a preview option here at the very top. I click that. Oh, see, this is a good reminder. You always have to save any changes that you make before you can either send something out for a test email or preview it. So I'm going to click on Save Draft here. And then I can click on preview, right? And now I can see, oh, this looks great. This is what it's going to look like when people see it in their inboxes. So for example, for this rich text card that we used, the voting one, can you see how it's a table with invisible borders? So we set the border width at 0, and using that shaded bottom row, it really just looks like a button that people can click, right? Staff event policies obviously empty because I didn't add any. So yeah, that looks good. I'm happy with that. After my preview, I'm going to want to send a test email, right? Just to see what it looks like in people's actual inbox. I would always recommend doing that. So I'm going to click on send test email. By default, it's just going to have your name, the person who's creating the email newsletter. You can add others. This is new for those of us on the call who are already using the email newsletter. We've heard you, right? This is something that our early testers requested, having multiple people receive a test email. And so that is something that we are now supporting. So I'm going to have Alina in my team, for example, and send a test email right away. So let's do that. It's going to say success. And then I just have here in, nope, hold on. Just this tab right here. I did this ahead of the webinar just so that you guys could have an idea. This is the test email as it arrives into my inbox, right? So again, this one I've built fully out. So you can see that we have our wine and cheese tasting event. This is the multi-post card, which has, in this case, I've pulled in a few other team events, staff events for the summer. And then we have the staff event policies that I talked about, event expense reimbursement, event code of conduct, and then the logo at the very bottom. So this is a step you always want to take. Just different email clients come with different settings. So it's always good to do that sort of step before sending it out to everyone. But mine looks great. So I am ready to start sending this out. So before clicking send, you want to go into the second tab here, which says schedule and recipients. And then here, this is super straightforward. You can choose to either schedule it for a future time, or you can send it out immediately, right? And then in recipients, this is where you either add individual people manually. It's probably not something you're going to do very often. Or you can just, if this is an email that's going to go out to all staff, you can just start typing all registered users. That is your default security group that just has everyone who is a user on the internet. If you're using this email for, like I said earlier, you can send email newsletters to specific teams, specific branches, specific office locations. You can do that here. So if I wanted to send this one only to my marketing team, I can select that. Maybe my human resources team, I want to get this as well. And then again, you can still add individual people as well if you want, right? So it's going to tell you 10 recipients. Great. That looks amazing. I am just going to send this one right away. There we go. All right. And now it's showing up in my list of email newsletters. Just a word, I want to show you the analytics on newsletters or the stats in a little bit. Before I do, I want to talk to you a little bit more about templates. So we've seen that there's 3 built-in templates that I showed you earlier. I chose the event one. You can also add your own templates, right? So if the upcoming staff events, the one that I just customized, if you're like, you know what, this looks so good the way I built it out, I'm going to want to use this every month for my staff events roundup, you can make that into your own custom template. The way to do that is you have your newsletter here. You're going to click on these 3 dots here and then click on Save as Template, which again, it gives you an area to customize the name. So I'm going to say monthly events roundup is the name for my template. And then I'm going to click on Save as Template. When you do that, is just going to, again, like have you preview what that template looks like in the builder. Again, obviously, it's removed the specific posts that I had used in my in the email newsletter that I just created. And if you're happy with it, you can click on Save as Template. You want to make sure to slide the draft. So it's going to create a draft template initially. If you want this to show up for anybody creating email newsletters, you want to make sure you turn that draft on so it changes it to published, right? So I'm going to click on Save Template now. And then if I go back to my broadcast center and I look at my templates, so this is recapping. This drop down here is where you toggle between the newsletters that you have in draft or that are sent versus your templates, right? So if I click on templates, it's going to show me these, the bottom 3 are the built-in ones, and then the monthly events roundup is the one I just created. Awesome. All right. On last thing I want to mention on the templates is you can import and export templates into your broadcast center. So if you, for example, have multiple ThoughtFarmer instances, if you have a staging site and you've built out a newsletter template there, you can import that into your live site. Or if perhaps one thing that we've been talking to on our side is we could come up with a number of additional templates on the ThoughtFarmer side and share them with people on our ThoughtFarmer community. In that case, again, we'll make it super easy for you to import the version that we have created, the template. So stay tuned for that. All right, so last but not least, I want to show you analytics, right? So how do you take a look at email newsletters that have been sent in the past, see how they landed, how people received them, and what actions did they take? So I have my June newsletter here that has been sent a few months ago. Clicking on the stats icon here is going to bring me into the analytics view. And so fairly straightforward. We have our email stats at the very top. This one only has 3 recipients. It's obviously a test email that we did here internally on our demo site, but it's going to show you how many people have received it, how many people did open your email, how many total clicks, unique clicks, and then the average clicks per open, right? So if you want to take a closer look at who those people are, you can click on View Users, and it's going to show you everyone who's opened and not opened the email. For those of you, again, this is a new change that we just recently added. It's not going to be on your site yet, but the next update that we roll out, which is likely going to be next week, this will be added to your employee newsletter feature as well. So in this case, Jess Cooper here is our top reader of the June newsletter with 8 total clicks as she read the newsletter. Jessica Dill has opened but not clicked on anything, but has read the content. In this case, not opened is going to be empty because all 3 of us have clicked. Have opened the email and taken a look at it. And then what's really neat here underneath is our click map. View click map. So what this means is that for each component of the newsletters, you're going to be able to see in isolation how it performed. For example, this one had something about an office barbecue, and I can see it had 3 clicks. So if I open that up or click on the 3 clicks, it's going to give me even more information, right? It's going to tell me which people clicked on this specific area, how many times, and then again, total clicks, unique clicks, and repeat clicks, total click-through rate as well. I know these are all important metrics for email communications that we have heard. So, and again, that's going to be happening for every single component or post or even link that you put in your newsletter, right? There we go. So even in just scrolling down here, we have sort of like a rich text block with different links to policies on the intranet. You can see the circles. It has information for every single link in that rich text editor card. Yeah. So tons of analytics, tons of ways to look at how your employee newsletter performs and who your top readers are. So that concludes the portion of the demo. I'm going to just hop back into my slide deck for a few more slides here before we open it up for question and answers. Wanted to just share a few tips and tricks. Some of them I've already mentioned in the demo to get the most out of our employee newsletter. So again, start with a template. Honestly, even if the newsletter you're going to send doesn't exactly fit an employee spotlight or an event, the templates have a ton of just also visual treatment in them that is can be serving as an inspiration for you to either keep it or do something similar and take it, personalize it from there. Allow list is always good. I mean, test it out for sure, but it is always good to make sure that the outgoing email address that your ThoughtFarmer intranet uses is going to be not landing in people's junk mail. So asking your IT team to add that email list, to whitelist that email address on your server setting side is a good precaution or just something to do before you start actively using it. I mean, if today you are a ThoughtFarmer customer, you've used it for a while, and people are getting email notifications for other things, like when they have a comment on a page they follow or a notification that they have to review some stale content. If those are coming through, then you're golden. But if email notifications is not something that you've really used in the past, maybe check with your IT team ahead of time. And then thirdly, test it first, right? Like don't skip the test email step for sure. It's good to send it to a couple of people, especially if there's people with different email clients, just to sort of see how it comes through, if everything looks nice. That's obviously a very obvious tip and trick to do before you get into the sending of employee newsletters. All right, so Q&A, there's a few questions. I mean, we have had a number of our customers test our employee newsletter in a sort of an open beta phase. And again, thank you so much for those of you who were our early testers of our employee newsletter. We've really appreciated all of the feedback and questions that you have sent us. It's allowed us to continue to make improvements to the employee newsletter and make it even better. A few common questions that we've had. So first, can we control who can create the newsletters? And yes, absolutely. So the security model behind that is very similar to how broadcasts work, right? So it's the same as broadcasts, actually. So in your admin panel, if you go to content and broadcasts, you can select whether only administrators can send broadcasts and email newsletters, or specific groups of people or individual people that have permission. So that is definitely customizable. Can you send to external contacts? So people who are not users on your intranet. This is a question that has come up, and no, that is not something you can do. So our employee newsletter feature can, the recipients there need to be people that have access to your intranet. And this is, of course, a precaution, right? Like your intranet is private to your organization. There might be content on there that you really do not want to get out to external stakeholders. And so for that reason, any sends are limited to people who are on your intranet. Thirdly, are there any formatting guidelines? So yes, we do have a link here. Again, we will share that out later on to our help desk. Currently, what we are working on, it's not yet live on our help desk, but it will be soon, as we've heard some customers ask about what are the ideal image dimensions for images that you add into the newsletter if you want to customize the thumbnail image. And so that is something that our writer is currently working on that we'll have out to you as well. And with that, we are ready to open it up for any questions from the audience. I'm just going to open up our Q&A box here. So one person asked, can you send newsletters from a custom email address rather than the default intranet email address? And that's a really good question. We've heard it before, actually, and currently no. So it is going to be the default outgoing email address that you have set up for everything. I mean, you can, of course, change that email address into the admin panel, but that will then change that email address for every one of your outgoing email messages. We are currently, I know this is feedback we've had from customers, and so our product team is thinking about maybe is there ways that we could have different senders available for the email newsletter, whether that is specific people or perhaps employee newsletters that come from different teams or divisions or something like that. So currently no, but it's a great question and great feedback, and we will definitely take that back. Question from Jess: is there a bilingual version, or do you need to put the text in 2 languages? And I'm just gonna look at some other people on the ThoughtFarmer team that I actually am not entirely sure. So that might be something that we have to follow up with you, Jess, after the call. Really good question. I mean, I know we have a lot of people and a lot of customers who use ThoughtFarmer in a bilingual or even trilingual way. So let us get back to you on that one. Looks like that is there any other questions that anyone has and wants to throw at us for now? I'm just looking in the chat as well. to see, but it looks like our team has been really busy bees answering everybody's questions. Okay, Nathan, having a lot of links can wear out the reader going back and forth with email and browser. Could there be a way to link a browser version of the newsletter? Yes. Really good question, Nathan. And it's something that currently no. So there is no web version of the email newsletter today. That said, it is again something that we've heard requests for from our early testers. And so while I don't really have a timeline or kind of like can let you know when that will be added, is something our team is investigating. Absolutely. Whether it is having a place on the internet where you can have sort of like a collection of your past newsletters for end users to see. I'm thinking that's your question. Let me know if I answered that correctly or not. um, perfect. I see. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Nathan. Heather has a question here. Can AI pull in a summary of each article instead of using the default text from the first paragraph? Not, this is an interesting use case. Not currently. I mean, you can customize obviously the summary of each article in your newsletter editor. Like you don't have to use the blurb that automatically gets pulled in from the intranet, just as you saw me swap that out for the wine and cheese event, but AI is not currently involved in that or providing a summary. Interesting idea though. Interesting idea. Great. Okay, I'm not seeing any further open questions. Again, if anything else comes up, if you have any other questions from the webinar today, definitely let us know. We are so happy at any time to talk about our employee newsletter. So if you have questions and you're a customer, please reach out to your customer success manager or myself or our support team. You will find again your employee newsletter in the broadcast center today. If you haven't discovered it yet, go and discover it today. And then last but not least, just a reminder that yes, we will be sending everyone an email follow-up with the recording of today's webinar, as well as some links and resources and an answer to the multilingual question, definitely as well. All right, I think that's it for us here in Vancouver. Thank you all so much for joining us today and looking forward to hear your findings and your feedback for the newsletter. Thanks so much, guys.